Don't you find it annoying that agencies keep banging on about digital marketing and it doesn't seem to work a lot of the time? Have you had the experience of working with agencies and for some reason you don't seem to get the results that you thought? Or if you do get the results, they seem to disappear overnight and things keep changing. There's always a new tactic, a new channel, something going on in the digital space. Well, I just got off an interview with a guy called Malcolm Ghallager who runs one of the biggest podcasts or shows on business growth. And we were discussing just that. How come it's so hard to find good agencies? How come it's hard to keep them to account? And where can we actually get the numbers to hold these people to KPIs? So if you want to look under the hood and see an agency owner like myself grilled extensively about how you demonstrate value and all that good stuff, I think it's going to help you if you're considering working with an external supplier for your digital ads. It's still, unfortunately, a bit of a wild west out there, and having a grip on the numbers and how to piece things together so you can hold them to account is incredibly important, none more so than today when budgets are strapped. So have a look at the interview. I'm going to roll it right now. Bear in mind, you're watching this on the Brainy Marketing channel. And if you do want to keep in the loop with my future videos on lead generation and marketing automation, then you need to hit the subscribe button and the little bell notification next to it on YouTube. If you ever want to speak with me directly about anything under the sun, I've got a meeting link in the description. And you can also just get in touch with me or my team on my website, thebrainsmarketing.co.uk. Hope you enjoy this interview. Hope you find it interesting to look under the hood, and see you very shortly. Take care.
Well, my background in core skills is marketing, but boy, has it changed over the years. And I believe it will be the key driver for our bounce back or even bounce ahead. That's why today I'm really excited about to be interviewing a true marketing professional, someone who's achieved the high position of number 3 in B2B's marketing, 30 under 30. Don't you just annoyed these young people? I don't know. Co-CEO of the brainsmarketing.co.uk, Larry Kotch. Larry, great to meet you.
Oh, it's fantastic to meet you as well, Malcolm.
Yeah, but obviously at a social distance. You know?
No, of course, yeah, I have to.
Tell me about yourself and the Brains Marketing Company.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of where I came to the country, actually from South Africa about 11 years ago, went to university here, started working in the city, and effectively got really interested in startups. I was working in finance and actually was able to raise money for a lot of startups that I ended up working for as a sort of director. You know, in startups, people sort of do everything. And that's where I discovered how difficult it was. About 2 or 3 companies I was involved with, how difficult it was growing those companies. They were B2B type companies, and it was very, very difficult to grow them. And that had a lot of failures and setbacks. And I was sort of so desperate to get what I thought was a great product and great service out there. I was so flabbergasted at why nobody was, why nobody was turning up, and sort of realized that if you can't solve the lead generation problem, it doesn't really matter what else you've got going on. If you're always running around like a headless chicken chasing your tail, it can be very, very tough. So I went on this kind of journey of transformation and sort of realized that what I was actually really interested in is solving that problem. Mm-hmm. And became really obsessed with digital marketing and ergo digital marketing these days. And I learned a lot at those companies and decided that I was probably stupid enough to try and start an agency, and sort of blagged my way through 5 or 6 years, learning a lot and learning a ton, and trying to find this sort of formula for consistent lead generation on tap. Like, how can you just generate unlimited leads from a standing start with no connections, no nothing? And and so that kind of got me into marketing, and that journey has been my journey. And I now run this agency called The Brains. We're 30 people strong. We have a foot in Europe, in Bulgaria, where we have an office, and an office here in London. Founded it 5 years ago, and going really strong. And excellent. And loving it.
Excellent. Now, look, you bill yourself as a business growth expert, but you and I are both on LinkedIn, and everybody does that, So where are you different? What are you different in your approach to helping businesses achieve that growth?
Yeah. So I think I'm two areas. The one is a ruthless focus on data and analytics and I guess sort of science in terms of the mathematics of campaigns. So
Right.
no vanity, no feel good stuff, no narratives. I mean, of course, when I say that, I'm not trying to say that content strategy isn't the most important thing. It is, but in terms of the execution of campaigns, there's nothing that escapes data these days. And so there's no excuse to not live or die by the data. And second, I think that we're definitely differentiating ourselves in is marketing automation. So we're very plugged into the latest marketing automation tools. And our vision when we work with clients is to, whether or not they can start at this, but our vision is to create for them a leads on autopilot system. So, there's no manual sending newsletters. Like, as soon as someone enters your database, they are being treated exactly the way that they need to be treated for that person's persona, that person's interests, that person's sector. They're getting content, they're getting pushed further down your funnel automatically without you ever lifting a finger. And so we believe that automation is going to massively disrupt in all industries, and marketing automation is going to be the key driver in the next 5 years for the companies that get on top of it or not. And so we're very plugged into HubSpot, Pardot, Marketo, all of the leading marketing automation platforms, and combining those with really, really creative campaigns that make it irresistible for the person to, download your lead magnet or convert on a landing page, because you kind of reverse engineer their biggest fears and their biggest motivations, and you give it to them in very clickbait, either long form or video format. So in order to access it, they basically need to drop you their details. They go into your database, and then marketing automation takes care until they are self-qualified, not resistant to your pricing. You've positioned yourself automatically, and they spit out the other end as a half-closed warm lead. And that's the vision for all of our clients. We just want a system that you put people in the top of the funnel, and out of the bottom comes pretty much semi-closed hot leads ready to chat about, exactly. They know exactly what they want. They're just calling. It's not even a sales call at that point. It's just yes, I can send you the contract for that thing that you're doing.
I like what you're saying there, because it sounds like it's measurable at all the stages through the funnel. And, that's the thing that finance directors will adore and are happy to pay for. Whereas they, unfortunately, too much marketing and, should we say, advertising is blindsiding people. It's got millions of views. I don't want millions of views. I want one customer. I like that. Yeah. Okay. So where do you see marketing as being currently underutilized by small businesses, and why is that happening?
Yeah. So to be honest, our area of speciality is B2B. So all clinics. So anything that's looking for inquiries, like appointments, leads, a considered business or consumer purchase, like that has a sort of salesperson speak to them, ideally. And I think that anyone who fits that criteria is criminally underusing LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is the world's biggest database. There's 650 million people on there. And I don't just mean LinkedIn advertising when I say LinkedIn. There are a host of things you can do with LinkedIn data, including scraping that data, mining that data out, using that data to retrieve email addresses for anyone you search for on there, using LinkedIn automation to message thousands of people a month on autopilot, and obviously LinkedIn advertising, taking the data out of LinkedIn, uploading it into Facebook, and advertising to the same audience but for 1/6 of the price. Lots of different things, but it starts with LinkedIn. If you're B2B, that's the gold mine of data. How you then pull that out of LinkedIn and use in your own ways is kind of the sweet spot. But at least get started with LinkedIn. Even if it's just Sales Navigator, working out how the search criteria works, how you can get to your ideal prospect, how you can search for them, and then have a look at what your options for getting in touch with them or making yourself heard.
I totally agree with you. On LinkedIn, I was running one of my regular tender how to win contracts workshops, and we filled it within 20 minutes at 70 places within
There
20
you go.
minutes on LinkedIn. Yeah,
Yeah,
just on LinkedIn. Incredible.
amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that CEOs, MDs, business leaders understand or have bought into digital marketing? And if not, why not?
I think it's kind of been bought into on a surface level, in the same way that you see a lot of bankers sort of saying, "Yeah, well, I guess Bitcoin makes sense," but they sort of pay lip service to it, but it's
Yeah.
not. I mean, there's a mixed bag. Obviously, some people take it really seriously. I think everyone agrees that it's like the thing that is going to happen, but I think there's still. People are always more hesitant of something they don't understand as much as something else, and so I think there's just been a natural catch up of people's desire to do something versus their understanding of the different options. And there's a lot of bad actors out there in the marketing agency world that don't deliver value, and then that sort of sours people. So if you have one or two bad experiences with the first two agencies you work with, maybe because you were shopping for the lowest price or whatever, but whatever it is, if you get two bad practitioners, you might then think, oh well, sod all of that. It's a hoax kind of thing, which is understandable.
I'm getting a good feeling, Larry, whilst I'm talking to you about the fact that you are focused on accountability. And so putting into perspective the fact that listening to you and of watching you as this goes out onto our podcast set, will be lots of CEOs, MDs, but in particular financial directors who at the moment are thinking, where can I put a red line through marketing? Yeah, and continue to put that red line through marketing. So let's go back to that accountability and just explain to those people how you and your team make marketing accountable. Yeah.
So it all starts with determining, and this is where the FD is really important, is determining the customer lifetime value, which is the lifetime value of a customer. Unless you have that number in your head, it's actually impossible to know what you should be spending to acquire a customer, because if you don't know what the average sort of net margin you make on your service or your product, and just if people are unaware with the concept of CLV, I've done videos on it, I'm sure there's lots of information online. It's the total net margin you make off the lifetime of you knowing a customer. So if for me, like an agency, if somebody turns up and does a £5,000 a month marketing retainer, they will be around for 6 months. So that's £30,000 of revenue, but I don't make. That's not the value for me. I still have to pay staff. I still have to pay everything. The value for me might be out of that whole engagement $5,000. So if you can bring me a customer for £500, for £1,000, that's a pretty good deal. And so for some companies it's difficult because they have different services, products and services, software and this and that. But you can definitely, as an FD, calculate that number and own that number, and I believe it should come from the client side. I mean, you can agree as a supplier, but you should be able to fix that number, and then you can work back from there. If your sales team are winning 1 out of every 5 phone calls and your customer lifetime value is £500, you should be willing to pay £100 per lead, because 5 leads cost £500. They'll close one of the leads. Ergo, you've got a good equation for growth. So you start working backwards from CLV, and then you say, well, how much do I need to spend on advertising to get that many leads? So how many leads are you looking for? What's the customer lifetime value? What's the cost per lead? And then you track those numbers religiously. And if something's going wrong, there needs to be a discussion. Why is it going wrong? Is it something with our product? Is it something with our service? Is it something with our branding? Is it something with the advertising? Is it something with the targeting? But as long as you've kind of really got to know that client in the first instance, you should, all of that stuff should be mitigated as far as possible, and any sort of and it's just a question of optimizing the campaign. So allow a few months, definitely, if you're new to these things. Definitely, marketing isn't a silver bullet. You have to remember, when you're making a marketing engine, you're making a money printing machine effectively, which is you put £1 in and you get £5 out. So anyone that tells you they can build you that machine for a couple £100 a month is just it's just not being realistic. So I think there's that kind of just understanding the value of customers, understanding the value that a marketing engine would actually deliver, and then being patient enough to realize that value and to track all the numbers and make sure you're heading there fast. But
I think that message that you've just kindly given, or should we say that that tutorial you've just kindly given there, will be also of great interest to the procurement managers and officers that listen in to us on our Supplier Plus channel as well there. Now, we've been focusing upon putting a program out called Bounce Back.
Yes.
And I say the government have copied us, but that's okay. But now we're focused now we're focused on Bounce Ahead, because we don't just want to bounce back, So what do you think are the 3 key marketing activities that businesses should focus upon now to ensure that they're going to bounce ahead? Let's not go for bounce back. Let's just stay where they were.
Yes. So I think I did another webinar about this on another conference thing the other day, and I had this way of framing things as there's 2 camps. There's the reframe and go, and there's the pause and brand, which are the 2 sort of approaches you could have taken to COVID. And the reframe and go, I really challenge a lot of companies to think, within their people, within their, in the closet somewhere, are ideas that are actually really applicable to the current times. It might be a reframing of the services. It might be a targeting of different industries that you didn't target before, but tweaking the product, or tweaking delivery somewhat. But with some entrepreneurial chutzpah and creativity, you can take the assets that you have and come to market with something. If you don't have a networks, or you don't have the 10 years in that specific niche that you're now targeting, this is where digital advertising can help you jump ahead of the pack. And really doing so in terms of activities you asked for, I'd say really doing a kind of deep analysis of your content strategy. So what do customers look like now? What do your customers look like now? What are their concerns now? Because they've changed. They're not the same personas that you had before. They're the same people, but the persona has changed in terms of their motivations. So really going back to basics on all of that, and then delivering them something that makes sense through advertising as quickly as possible, and then using marketing automation is another thing to start getting on now. If you've got time on your hands, there's time to be building this kind of magic leads on tap system that I like to advocate. At least learning about that, getting to grips with that, is something that everyone should, if they have time on their hands, do now. And whether you're able to go out with something to the market, or you can't at all, there's just no way. Like maybe you only specialize in hospitality, and there's no way that anyone else could benefit from what you do. In that case, you should still be doing very much the stuff that you're doing, Malcolm, and communicating with your potential customers for post-COVID or whatever, because when this is all over, they're going to remember the people that were there with the great information that actually helped them. And when they come back, they're going to say, well, I've got a really positive association with that brand. They really helped me out. They really gave me some great info. And people are clicking like mad on the internet right now. They're just at home, much less things on their mind. They're downloading anything you put in front of them on LinkedIn. If it's in any way related to helping them through this period, they'll be downloading it. They'll be going to your webinar. They'll be, whatever it is. So thinking of that, if you can't go out with something, at least go out with communicating with the future prospects you hope will come back at some point.
I quite agree. I mean, we're obviously saying to people, maintain or even increase your visibility, because absence doesn't make the heart grow fonder. It's out of sight, out of mind, isn't it? I learned that from an earlier girlfriend, by the way. Okay, listen, do you think UK businesses are too soft in the marketing and lack the link of marketing and sales to generate results that happens in places like the US? I was in Denver, Colorado. Well, mythically last night there, with a hospitality guru there in sales and marketing. It's go go go. Where he was saying, "Oh, I'll take furlough."
I think that there probably is something about the US that they are much more sales driven. I think sometimes I think there's kind of pros and cons to both to both approaches. But I definitely think in terms of, I think a lot of British businesses I've dealt with seem to struggle to really sing their own praises. There's a kind of thing about British culture that's very, I guess, understated on average. I mean, not liking to run around in Ferraris and, you know, with bravado and what the youngsters would call flex. But I think I think there's a way that British people can do that to some degree, that maybe they're leaving stuff on the table by not doing. But having said that, you're selling to other British people, so if they're not interested, then that's the thing. I personally think the way that is best manifested is in clickbait. I want to say clickbait, but clickbait has a negative connotation. But being able to really strongly word things in ads that is very persuasive, rather than kind of beating around the bush around it and saying, you know, it's pretty. I think you should be more direct in terms of the advertising. The advertising that people do. Yeah, that's where I'd say we could learn from the US. Yeah.
The reason I said that is because, you know, we're changing because of Brexit and whatever is happening, and we see that export is important to our revival of the economy. But if we're going to get into the marketplace, our marketing has got to be extremely results orientated. It's got to be fast. We've got to be agile. And I just feel that UK businesses are not as agile as they should be.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, I would say I kind of broadly agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, let's look at some of the trends in marketing that SME businesses need to embrace now if they're going to continue to grow. You kindly talked about marketing automation.
Yes.
We're saying video marketing. What other trends do you think are important?
Video marketing is a huge one as well.
Yeah.
I think everybody has something to say. I think that people think that, you know, with something like YouTube or a show like this one, that they have to go on about themselves, or that nobody's going to be interested if they just talk about taxes or something. But people really are, and you can make your show entertaining at the same time as in your niche or in your area. So I think it's just approaching those channels as creating content that's not just dry, you know, but actually has something. You know, like interview format's really good. There's all sorts of things that other people could be doing. Podcasts are really good as well. Podcasts have been working really well for some people. I think marketing automation is big, and I think I think that's the sort of biggest one. I mean, if we're talking about SMEs, I would say those are actually my main areas. Other than the digital marketing that I would like them to be doing more of, but
we've been exploring other channels, and strangely enough, because I keep watching what's going on in America, we went into TikTok.
Okay.
I thought my perception was that I've got too many grey hairs for TikTok, but no, not at all. No. Unbelievable, you know.
Yeah.
And do you think people are trying enough? Experimenting enough on new channels?
It's kind of like, I think whenever a new platform like TikTok comes up, it's a bit of a Wild West, and it's in the same way that influencer marketing is still a little bit of a Wild West as well. But you know, there's all these trends around, and certainly it depends what kind of business you are. But I think the main thing is working out, with all this sea of different options in front of you and new trends on the horizon, what actually makes sense for you. Because what I see a lot of SMEs doing is they read up about SEO or they read up about Facebook, and a lot of the stuff you read online isn't targeted at a specific sector, or you know, it's just saying this is why Google ads are great or something, and then they think Google ads, but actually it doesn't apply at all to them. So I think a lot of time is wasted by information being just one size fits all. So ideally find information sources that are aligned to your sector.
We're chasing after young entrepreneurs for the stuff that we do on that one, and the first thing I got from TikTok was this guy saying that's not what TikTok's about. And so I got slightly disillusioned. And then within half an hour, we'd got loads of sign up to people saying, yeah, we want to get started on our own business and so on. So it was quite exciting.
Amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a good medium for this. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I thought so. But let's go to the other end of the spectrum, to my age group. So many older business people think that social media marketing, which you know a lot about, is misleading in its effectiveness and is a bit like, well, somebody once said to me, emperor's new clothes.
Yes.
So without knocking competitors, do you think there's some truth in that? And what approach should an SME adopt to achieve social media success?
So this is a big bugbear of mine, a real big bugbear of mine, because there's actually, you could actually split social media into social media management and paid social or social media advertising, which are two very different things. So what a lot of agencies are saying by social media marketing is like, I'll manage your Facebook page, I'll manage your LinkedIn page, I'll put out stuff, but nobody's watching and nobody cares. So nothing's going to happen. You have to be advertising. Even if you have 1,000 followers on Facebook, if you post something, like 50 of them will actually see it in their feed, because you're competing for their Facebook feed's real estate with everybody else, all of their friends that have things that they actually want to know about. They're never going to get to your post by the time that Facebook suggests it to them. Ditto in LinkedIn, you have to be actually running ads to your specific target customers, to your specific customer personas that you want as prospects. There's no good just having, your mum, your dad, your gran and your kids on your Facebook page, and you're posting every week and they're the only ones seeing it. I mean, you want your customers seeing stuff, not who happens to like your Facebook page, which could be potential employees. It could be, just people that found you interesting, that just want to learn from you. You want your customers, your potential customers, actually seeing what you're posting. And so just sort of updating people. I mean, there's such a sea of business and such a sea of content being published. Nobody cares about your company. Like, nobody cares about my company. Nobody cares about anyone else's company. Just nobody cares. You have to give them a reason to give them your contact details. And you have to do that by reverse engineering what it is they desire or fear the most in their specific job role and sector, and relate that to your services in an ebook or a webinar, and you give it to them to download directly. They give you your details and you nurture them until they're ready to talk. If you're just using social media as like, I'm going to post stuff, it's not going to get anywhere. I mean, it's like not even mathematically possible to get anywhere with that. And I'm talking strictly as an SME business. If you're like a consumer business, like you sell, you've got an e-commerce business, completely different story. You'll still be running ads, but you can develop really loyal sort of fans and things like this. So, if you're an artist, if you're a writer, of course, that's completely different. I'm talking about, sorry, I should have clarified. I'm talking more about B2B.
Yes,
kind of,
I totally understand. Yeah,
nobody's going to be a fan of your accountancy firm. It's like, and if you start a show like this, people can be a fan of that show, and then but if you're just pushing out stuff saying new GDPR regulations, new this, it's just everyone's tired of it, and it's not really helping.
No, people want to experience what other people are doing. Okay, right. The old saying, you're too young for this, by the way. The old saying of 50% of my advertising is wasted. The problem is I don't know which 50%. That often surfaces as an excuse by financial directors to cut back on marketing and sales budgets as soon as the chilly wind blows. Now, the chilly wind is going to keep blowing, isn't it? Because we're coming towards recession, we're coming towards Brexit, we've still got this continuation of uncertainty, and as the World Health Authority says, coronavirus is probably unlikely to go away, so social distancing is going to continue there. So I'm saying to you, isn't such cutbacks silly if the business is ever going to survive? And let's talk B2B.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. I mean, I'm 100% with you there. It's just, I understand why people think that they need to pause things like that. But obviously, if you're not doing marketing, then you are consigning yourself to shutting down your business. I mean, if you're losing customers, or you've already lost customers and you're still bleeding customers, and you're not doing anything to replace those customers, and fill your sales pipeline, which might be very long. It might be 3 months, might be 12 months, might be a long time.
Yeah.
Then how can you get out of this? I mean, you'll be taking a real axe to a lot of your company. I mean, I would say maybe don't invest in long time horizon stuff like, if you're going to embarking on on a 1 year SEO retainer for 10K a month, that's going to take a long time to realize itself. I'm not knocking SEO at all, but I'm just saying, you wouldn't do that now. You wouldn't maybe do a 30 grand a month PR stunt unless that really applies to you somewhere. But that's not maybe the time for that. Targeted, really targeted ads with whatever new you're trying to get out to the market to show that you're still relevant in today's times. That seems to me like something you should at least ring fence as something to test the waters, to get people at least coming back to you for something. Otherwise, I mean, there's definitely inefficiencies in marketing. But again, I come back to tracking and religiously tracking the data. If that's not set up, then you shouldn't not know which 50% doesn't work. There's no excuse for that. You can know which 50% doesn't work.
Yeah, so you won't be running blind into it in the future. I think that when people select agencies and PR agencies, and we've had some very interestingly horrific experiences dealing with people and coming on guest by their PR agency. Gosh, some are very good. Please don't get me wrong. Some are very good, and some
absolutely. That's probably a sector that's overdue some sort of disruption at some point.
Without a doubt. Okay, let's go to Bulgaria now. Bulgaria, how are you calling it? I'm fascinated by the success you've had in expanding your business presence in Bulgaria. Tell me about it, how it happened, and why you chose that country.
I would like to say it was really methodically thought out, but basically we were experimenting with how we could reduce our costs as an agency while still keeping the same quality. And we realized that you can't outsource content strategy. You can't outsource, the kind of thinking behind campaigns, a lot of that stuff. The UK is known as one of the best centers for that. Yeah. However, there's a lot of things, the kind of mechanical pushing of buttons on Facebook, LinkedIn, the website building, analytics, tracking. There's some people that are obsessed and very good, who are educated in the UK, out there, who are super talented, and perfectly, to be quite frank, they're really great at content as well. But I mean, it's a different league over here, I guess. But over there, in terms of technical, can't knock it in any way. So we started outsourcing, our web design, our development over there to individuals as freelancers. And one of the people we got over there was a fantastic lady who actually ended up becoming a shareholder in the company. She was so instrumental in the early years. And we basically started employing her full time. And we were saying, this is going really well. She needed to expand the design and development team. So we were like, we need to hire a developer and designer. Got a lot of clients now. And she just figured, well, why don't we just get a small office here and I'll manage them. And we had had this idea in our head, and we're looking at different countries. We also had a team of developers that we sent application projects to in Bosnia. So we were thinking about Bosnia more than Bulgaria. But then we started getting into how easy is it to set up a business in those different Eastern European countries. And Bulgaria scored one of the highest in terms of, it only takes 30 days to open a company. Whereas Bosnia was like 250 days on average to open a company. And so we just saw the bureaucracy and, that stuff going on in some of the countries and thought, no, let's keep it to the others. But if you go to Poland, if you go to, some of the more developed Eastern European countries, they've been doing this since the 90s, this outsourcing. And now people are commanding similar salaries in the tech and digital space than they are in the UK. So you actually don't get the benefits of going out there at all. So you want to keep it to the Balkans. The Balkans, I think, is the new area, Moldova, Bulgaria, even Ukraine. These kind of places, great. But finding the one that has easy terms of business, and as long as there's enough people that can do what you need in the country. So you have to look on the job sites first, see if there's enough jobs going for that, interview some people. You can always hire them remotely. You can always put them on contracts as contractors and test it out, make sure everything's good, and then jump in. That's how we did it.
And these days, Bulgarian wines are quite nice, aren't they?
They have a local grape called the Mavrut. I highly
Right.
recommend it. I'll
Yeah.
get you a bottle. I'll send you a
Yeah,
bottle.
well, better than the old bull's blood, I think it used to be called in
Really?
Bulgaria. Yeah. That really did knock you out. Right, listen, this is quite exciting about your UK and your Bulgarian presence. So, how do you think having that EU presence is going to help you help customers post Brexit?
To be honest, I find that in terms of what we were talking about with the kind of sluggishness of the UK companies relative to US, I'd say Europe is sluggish compared to the UK in general. So I'm not so sure the future of that whole zone. I hope for the best, but it's not looking good at the moment. And I'm not so sure whether for us we see it as, because we don't really work with Bulgarian clients. Like, so to give you an example, if you go talk to digital marketing to a Bulgarian company that's not like an enterprise but an SME, they will just look at you very puzzled, like marketing, like digital marketing, forget about it. They really don't want to hear anything about it. They're not interested, even up until like they're the biggest companies over there. They'll still be pushing you on price. They don't get the value. And same, I'd say, in a lot of Eastern Europe from all the reports I've heard. So if you're talking about the major France, Germany, they already have their sort of local agencies. There is a premium placed on UK-based agencies. I think for us, it's more like a hedge against the pound. We have a place there. The spread between the pound and the euro can affect, our actual wages. So it can be a risk if the pound does badly. So it's more just, I guess, having a foot in both camps is nice for us in case we maybe one day have to start charging in euros because it's more efficient to any European clients and charge in pounds to our UK clients from the UK company. At least we have the option because we have both companies. So if we do go European, if that's on the cards, then we probably would do that. But for us, I think we're heading stateside probably when we can. So
yeah, I understand that. Yeah. I mean, we've got interviews next week in New York and various places there. Yes, much more. Yeah, but tougher market. I do think though that you will have an advantage post Brexit in as much as that you will understand the new EU culture.
Yes,
and culture is, of course, one of the biggest impacts that we're going to have as we move forward. All right.
That's actually very true. Yes, that's very true. Yes.
Yeah, that culture knowledge of what how it's working in EU will think there. Now, we're getting towards the end of what I'm really enjoying this conversation. Let me ask you to give 3 tips you would give entrepreneurs thinking of an expansion into Europe.
Mm-hmm. I'd say, first of all, hire contractors out there. There's always job sites for that. You can use things like Upwork and select the country. So all these freelancer websites, you can just make sure you select the country.
Yeah.
You work with them through the platform first, but eventually you become friends. You talk through Skype. You have meetings outside of those freelancer platforms and develop that relationship. You might have to cycle through a few people till you find people that are really good and dependable. At that point, you can sort of ask them if they would like to do more hours, take a more active role, like actually do more of a full-time thing. And then at some point, if you're considering that if the economics is really working out and you want to expand over there, I would use that at least one person over there that's your real partner and tell them, look, I mean, we want to go over there. I'm going to fly over and meet you, get them to kind of take you around. They're very, very welcoming people, really, 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 really hospitable. And sort of go do a few tours just to crystallize it in your head of what the properties look like, the commercial real estate, which is very, very, very cost effective. So you can get a very big office there for a few £100, a month, and really large. So I think it's definitely worth seeing it with your own eyes once you've got someone and you're sure that the people there can do what you need. Mm-hmm. Go see it, and if it makes sense, start small. So my second one would be start small when you do make the jump and expand. And then the legal side of things, make sure that whoever you're dealing with as your main contractor over there recommends either themselves or through their friends the legal entities. Because if you're a company coming from outside, you get absolutely fleeced by real estate agents. So if you just search here for commercial property Bulgaria, they'll be telling you, London prices and setting you up in some serviced office, and they're running a racket, But if you know somebody locally who can speak the local language, they can just find a local estate agent and get you a tenth of the price for the same thing in a dedicated building, that's not a serviced office. So if you do it that way, you're going to save a lot of costs and legal costs and property costs and things in the long term. Yeah.
Great advice. I appreciate that. Larry, look, I've thoroughly enjoyed meeting you. You really are dynamic, and you've got some exciting approaches, such as marketing automation and measurability. Before we sign off, what's your key message to those business leaders who are both watching and listening to you, worried about their future at the moment, uncertainty, whatever's around there, and wondering how they can start winning?
Yeah. I think my mantra would probably go back to understand the new persona of your customer. Understand why they're different now. Because if you can get into their heads and what they're thinking, then you always know what they want to hear.
Yeah.
So really think how the landscape has changed. Number two is think about the advertising that you're going to do. Like, obviously do advertising, don't just follow yourself and give up. Like, do something, even if it's small scale. Get people's attention, these new personas, get their attention. And then the third is, if you're going to have a smaller team, you should be thinking about automating all sorts of parts of your company if you can. I mean, it's like the machines are eventually going to take over. We either join them now or they'll leave us in the dust. It's unfortunate,
The robots are coming.
Yeah, and people have said this for a long time, but these automation platforms now, you can do so much that requires human labor. Yes, it's a pain to think about, and it's maybe an uncomfortable area to think about, but they've really simplified it now. It's got to a stage where it's not a bunch of developers. You don't need to be a tech person anymore to get your head around automation. You drag and drop things in the same way that building a website now is just drag and drop. The marketing automation platforms are now caught up to that sort of level. So you can learn if you find the right resources, and you can save a lot by automating jobs. So if you have a leaner company that can run a bit more automated, you have very targeted ads to the right people, you should hopefully be able to win coming this year, next year.
Yeah. Larry, I do hope that people have enjoyed listening to you there. I have, and that they will pop along to the URL that's behind me there at thebrainsmarketing.co.uk. Thank you once again, Larry, for your kind contribution and brilliant contribution.
It was a pleasure, Malcolm. I hope it's useful in some way.
Thank you.